In this video, I'm going to show some examples of estimating differences of fractions. In each one of these examples, we're going to round to a benchmark number, in this case 0, 1/2, or 1 whole, before we subtract. On question 1, we want to estimate the difference between 2/9 and 1/8. Remember that estimates are meant to be done quickly and mentally, but in this video I'm going to show you how I estimated, just so you can see the thinking that's going on behind my mental estimates. So what I'm doing mentally is I'm picturing where 0/9 would be on a number line in relation to 0, a half, and a whole. 0 would be the same thing as 0/9, and 1 whole would be the same thing as 9/9. 2/9 is going to be somewhere right about here. 2/9 is 2/9 away from 0, and 1/2 is the same thing as 4 1/2. So 2/9 is 2 1/2, 2 1/2 away from 1/2, but only 2 away from 0. So therefore I would round it to 0. So I'm just going to mark this out and write 0. 1/8, probably don't even need a number line for 1/8. I'm going to go ahead and just quickly sketch it. But 1/8 is definitely going to round to 0, because 1/2 is the same thing as 4/8, and 0 is the same thing as 0/8. And 1/8 is going to definitely be closer to 0/8 than it is to 4/8. So this would also be 0. 0 minus 0 is 0. Question 2, 1/7 and 1/9. This is an example of one that I really don't need to draw out. 1/7 is going to be close to 0. 1/9 is close to 0. 0 minus 0 is 0. Question 3, I am going to draw a number line. So we want 7/9 and 7/12. Start with 7/9. Here would be 0/9. Here's 9/9. And from before, we know a half is 4 1/2. 7/9 is somewhere in the middle here. So we just need to figure out which one is it closer to, 4 1/2 or 9/9. The distance from 4 1/2 to 7 is 2 1/2. And the distance from 7 to 9 is 2. So 7/9 is closer to 9/9, or 1 whole. Same thing with 7/12. Here is 0/12, or 0. Here's 12/12, or 1 whole. And here's 6/12, or 1/2. 7/12 is somewhere right about here. It is only 1/12 away from 6/12, but it's 5/12 away from 1 whole. So it's going to round to 1/2. 1 minus 1/2 is 1/2. And then on question 4, we have 7/12 again. We already know that that's going to round to a half. Then we have 1/3. Here is 0/3. Here is 3/3, or 1 whole. 1/2 would be the same thing as 1.5 thirds. We're trying to find where 1/3 is. It would be somewhere over here. And it's a half away from 1 1/2, but it's 1 away from 0. So therefore we would round it to 1 1/2 thirds, or 1/2. So 1/2 minus 1/2 equals 0.